Hello fellow bike people! It's finally time for new bikes. I've been waiting all season for this. Now if you've seen any of my older videos, you know my last bike was a Rocky Mountain Fusion 40, but it was the last generation, so it had the older geometry, older parts kit. It worked fine, but it just wasn't modern enough and it was a size small. I got it in a small because that's what was available when I bought the bike. I always regretted not getting a medium. So this is the new version in a medium. So while I'm doing this, first thing I should say, this one is a Fusion 30. The old bike was a Fusion 40. Now I was looking at the current 2021 Fusion 40, but there was two things that really swayed me towards the 30 instead of the 40. Once I unwrap them and I show you what parts I'm talking about, you'll see what I mean. But in my opinion, the 30 is genuinely a better bike than the 40 model. Before we get to the bike itself, let's see what's in the box. I'll take what's in the box. Alright, so that is extra fittings for the internal routing on the frame and a tool for the crankset. Basic manual parts. More owner's manual. More paperwork. More paperwork. More unnecessary warning things that everybody knows how to use so they don't really need anyways. Quick release, this is something I'm okay with. A lot of modern bikes will be using a through axle instead of a quick release, but I've never really had problems with these in the past, so for my purposes I don't see any reason to change. Pedals, these are alright. I mean, they're plain metal mountain bike pedals. I like that Rocky Mountain uses metal pedals. A lot of the competitors will use plastic, but these are still just a bit too basic, so I'm going to put my own personal pedals on this bike instead of these. Let's see, stem and handlebar. That's facing down. I think I'm going to leave that for now. The last bike I had the stem flip down, it was pretty comfortable. They've changed the geometry entirely on the bike for this year, so I don't know if this will be the same, but I'll try it like this for now. I'll flip that to the other way if I need it later. Not a bad looking combo there. I like this bar with a bit of rise there. On my older version of this bike, it came with a completely straight bar, XC style, zero rise, and I had to change it because it wasn't comfortable. This looks pretty good, so I think I'm going to give this a try before I bother changing the cockpit. That's gorgeous. Gotta deal with a bit of brake rub, but that's whatever. So the drivetrain is one of the reasons I really like this bike over the 40 model. This is Shimano's 10-speed Dior setup. Now they kind of rearranged their lineup for this year, but for the last few seasons, the kind of mid-range price point where you get all the technology from the top level stuff, but you spend a price closer to the lower level stuff. It's been Shimano's M6000 Dior versus SRAM's SX models. So Now the updated Dior has 12-speed and 11-speed options. This one's only the 10. This is the one that, from my experience, has been reliable for the last few years in terms of design. I don't like the SRAM builds personally, because I find the SRAM SX derailleurs fitting 12 gears into there and using not the greatest materials, they don't perform the way these Dior derailleurs do. Now compared to the old setup, like my last bike was a 2x10 with no clutch. The clutch mechanism here, that's really what allows this 1x system with no chain guide up front to work properly. So I'm really hoping this performs as well as I've experienced on customers' bikes in the past. Okay, if anybody is watching this as a pure unboxing video, this is probably the bit you want to see, right? With all the graphics, see what this actually looks like? Because, like most things, they show pictures online, but it doesn't really, do it justice, doesn't show all the details. For example, online in Rocky Mountain's website, the green bits of this frame just look like a plain dark green. It doesn't look like there's anything special, but when you look really close, there's a bit of a metal flake effect in there, and it looks really good. So, nice little maple leaf there. Got the split for the two-tone. Internal routing ports here. So, this blue. That was the one thing that made me somewhat hesitant about getting this bike. So the other bike I was looking at as an alternative to this was the Norco Fluid Hardtail 2. Very similar build, very similar price. The big trade-off spec-wise is this one has a generic Pro Wheel brand crank, the Norco has a Shimano crank, but this one has the higher end XCR fork from Suntour, the Norco has the XCM, so slightly lower quality. So spec-wise, I feel like they're basically equal. I'm just personally not a huge fan of how this blue stands out against the green. The Norco was all black and gray. That's much more my wheelhouse, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think I'm gonna judge this bike because of a bit of blue. It looks good to me, and especially from a distance, and when you're riding it, that blue means nothing. But I guess that is a personal thing too. If you really like the look of modern bikes, this is very trendy right now. This whole style of like high contrast with a two-tone, it looks good. It's very up to date. Alright, so here's the fork I was talking about. Suntour XCR. Yeah, Suntour is not the greatest brand out there, but in the grand scheme of things, this fork's pretty solid. If you look at it, it's got a nice lockout out there. It's got the air chamber on this side. It's got a nice fat stanchion, so it's going to be plenty stiff. And it's got a bit of adjustment down here for you. So that's really all you need. And here's where I get kind of opinionated. The reason I prefer this to the fork on the 40 model is RockShox on the more basic forks on, so the Judy on that bike, it's skinnier stanchions, effectively the same adjustments and features as this fork, but I don't know, I find RockShox on their base models, they don't put the same kind of tuning effort into it that even companies like Suntour will. So, from my experience, forks like this tend to be a lot better than basic RockShox. For RockShox to really come into its own, you have to step up a few price points to get all the higher end technology like their charger dampers and things like that. For a basic fork like this and a mid-range bike, that's awesome. I'm happy with the Suntour XCR. And brake-wise, I'm pretty happy with that too. The standard MT200s, it's the same brake that every entry-level mountain bike has these days, and I don't think that's a bad thing. It's been engineered long enough that, it's fairly reliable, it's easy to service, the parts are affordable, like new pads are only $10 or $15. You really can't go wrong with these. I like these brakes. Before I put the wheels on the bike and get everything adjusted, I'm going to swap out these tires. So Rocky Mountains use Wilderness Trail tires for about as long as I can remember on these models. They've used some Maxxis tires as well, but it's usually Wilderness Trail. Now they're fine tires, but I don't know, they lack some sort of pizzazz to me. So I'm switching them out with my favorite brand, Continental. So the ones I'm putting on are the same width, intended for roughly the same purpose, just from a slightly different company. I really like the tread pattern of the Continental Mountain Kings though. It's been updated, so technically the ones I'm putting on are the last generation Mountain Kings, but they work great. I like them. I've seen them run nicely on everybody's bikes. No reason to get anything more modern, I think. You know, plus they're in stock and there's nothing else available right now. Well, I have this off. I gotta say I'm really happy with that rim too. My older version of this bike had, realistically, they were hybrid rims. They were skinny, they were nothing special, they worked okay, but not great. These are nice tubeless ready, like a real mountain bike rim. Yeah, really happy to change out to that. Oh, I love that snap when tubeless bits hook in. Oh, that's nice. That's how you know it's working proper. So yeah, contrasting these two tires, this is the original, and that's the one I put on there. So technically, like I said, same size, just slightly different aesthetic and intention for the tire, and it's a different company. And personally, I really like the way Continental does things. Alright, tires are on, bike is built, so now it's just a few things left. I gotta do some regular adjustments, so double check the gears are all good, stop that brake rub, tighten all the bolts, all that. Before I do that, I want to show you what I'm doing for accessories. These are DMR death grips. These are our favorite in this shop. We all run these. They're super squishy, they're super comfy. They come in thick, thin, soft, and hard durometers. There's also an ultra soft race version out there. These are awesome grips. They're super comfy, you don't even need gloves, super grippy. They take a long time to wear out. Like, I don't have a single bad thing to say about these. Pedal-wise, earlier I mentioned that those metal pedals are not the greatest thing in my mind. They're definitely better than a plastic pedal, but not the greatest. These are Crank Brothers stamps. These are really nice pedals. They come with that massive body and a super slim profile, so you get a really stable ride feel. And even over rough terrain, if your foot slips a little, you're still on the pedal, so tons of grip. And last, we're gonna do my saddlebag with my multi-tool and extra tube, and then a couple basic accessories from Blackburn. That's just a basic pump, just for emergencies. And that is my favorite bottle cage ever. That is made out of titanium. Blackburn, I actually think Blackburn still does these, but we haven't stocked them for a while. Either way, kind of tricky to come by, but if you see these titanium Blackburn cages, like, I swear that's negative weight. It's lifting my hand up, it's so light.